Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Am I audible? Can anyone hear me? All right. If I'm audible, good morning. Welcome to today's class. Please, I would like the mentees to, if possible, go help me inform other mentees that class has started and we're waiting their arrival. Um, They welcome again, once again, to today's class. This is week 4 of the fourth quarter of mentorship. We've been through week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and we've delved extensively into the energy industry. We've talked about the fossil fuel industry. We've talked about the power industry, renewable energy, and now this fourth week, our topic for today is energy crisis, impacts, and possible solutions. Energy crisis, impacts, and possible solutions. And I'm sure it's going to be a very, 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 very interesting section. But before we go straight into the section, we just want to take these few announcements and then head into the subject matter of today. So our first announcement for today is like we've been announcing that registration for first quarter 2024 mentorship program is ongoing. Right, you can still register for another course if you are interested. You can inform family and friends and colleagues to also register if they are interested in being a part of this wonderful program. I'm sure you've learned a lot, and I'm sure you having hands-on experience on everything that our mentors have taken us through time and time again on everything that you need to know about the energy industry. The courses that we have available are intellectual property, artificial intelligence and technology, the energy industry, fintech industry, health tech and law, patent drafting, blockchain NFT and metaverse, data privacy and protection, and entertainment business and law. Those are the programs, those are the courses rather that we are offering. So if you're interested in any of these, right, you can just follow that registration link on the flyer, or you can enter my DM and I will send it straight to you so that you can register and you can commence. We can begin to wait for the next quarter of mentorship. We are still affording you the opportunities to have the 30 minutes one-on-one mentorship with your favorite gypsy mentor. After the program, you have, I'm sure you've seen and you've met our mentors, and they've done due diligence in trying to bring to light the energy industry. And I'm sure if you want to know more about the energy industry, you can just click that link. You can just say, like, message me and I will send you the link so that you can register, and then you can get hacks, you can get secrets, life lessons, and directions from your favorite mentor. So we'll be going into we are going to meet our mentors for today. Our first mentor for today is Mr. Okechukwu Kelly Agbo. Um, I will not be doing so much profile reading since these are our mentors that have been here with us, right? They've gone through everything and they don't need any introduction. They are well aware of who they are, and you're already used to them. So we'll not be doing much of profile readings today. So our first mentor for today is Mr. Okechukwu Kelly Agbo. Our second mentor for today is our very well esteemed mentor, Mr. Okeogene Ubehe. Right, Mr. Okeogene, we all know him. He has been such a very, very wonderful mentor. He has done due diligence to all the topics. He has always been available, always on time. Right, so we want to thank you, sir, for joining us today. We would like to hear from you and get to know what's your take on the energy crisis very soon. Our last but not least on our mentor list is Mr. Alexander Olatunde Akulu. Mr. Alexander, same here. No need for any plenty talk. No need for any other introduction. We all know who Mr. Alexander is. He's a very he's an expert on the power industry, and not just the power industry. He spans into other sectors of the energy industry, and he has a vast knowledge on all aspects as regards the energy industry. And we would like to also hear from him. We'll be hearing from him soon, right? I hope he's already in the meeting. Well, respective, I'm sure if he's not already around, he will soon be joining us. So without wasting any much of our time, right? Without wasting time, we'll be going into the topic for today. Please, you can still message your fellow group members so for them to join the call, those that are not currently here, so that we can have a full class. So we'll be having Mr. Okeogene come and do like a brief introduction into the energy crisis, impacts and possible solutions. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today. We would like to hear your take on this subject matter, and we are sure willing and ready to learn from your vast knowledge and experience on this topic. Welcome, Mr. Okeogene. The floor is yours, sir.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can see you and we can hear you.
Excellent. Wonderful morning to you all, and nice again to be within the environment of the JIIPCC environment. Always a pleasure for us to come here to share our experience. This is the least we can do as fellow laborers in the energy industry. We are privileged to be somehow in front of you, and that's not something we take lightly. And we believe that sharing our knowledge is something that we must do in this industry to ensure that everybody is growing. And the future belongs to all of you, young lawyers, young engineers that are coming. I have a slide I want to share on my laptop, which I'm currently opening at the moment. My laptop is a bit slow, so I'll go ahead to start presenting up until when anything comes up, and then I'll share with all of us. It's not on my phone, so it's on my laptop. But I'll just go ahead, and by the time we're ready, maybe. Dennis, do you have my previous PowerPoint slide? Do you have it?
No, sir, I do not have it, sir.
Oh, excellent. I think God is with us today, so my laptop has opened up, though it's a bit slow. Maybe your colleagues have it already, because it's not the first time I'm presenting it. I've shared it with them already. But I'll go ahead. I think my system is coming up also, so I'll do well to share that. For some reason, my laptop is a bit slow, but I'm sure it will come up and then we'll see the screen. But let me go ahead. This is a very, very important topic that we must always pay attention to. Let me not re-echo. I'll reduce this. So I think I have a second device on the system. Can you confirm that so I can share my screen?
Okay, yes, your second device is online. Yes, sir, you can share your screen.
Okay, excellent. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, it's loading, sir.
Okay, excellent. I've chosen a non-PowerPoint presentation, so it's a lot easier for us to see. I was looking at some of the presentations from the mentees already, just as a way of preparing for this. But let me share my screen. Just let me know what you can see from your end.
So we can see history of energy crisis.
No, that's not. Okay, just hold on 1 second. Yes, so let me close all this PowerPoint. Sorry, just 1 second. I think we are getting it right now. Screen. . Maybe I should just go ahead and start presenting, and when it gets better, we'll hit the ground running. If you can see anything on my screen, you let me know, but I can't see the second screen at the moment.
Okay, no, sir, we can't see your screen. Okay, now it's sharing.
Okay, excellent. Sorry about that delay, but energy crisis impact and possible solutions. You can see my screen now, right?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, excellent. All right. Presentation outline. I believe that the energy industry is a very important industry to us. It impacts on everyone on this call now. Energy exists in different forms. If you don't have energy, you'll not be sitting on this call. We eat food, we eat different things so that it's the metabolism of our body is able to extract the energy component of carbohydrates and most other type of foods that we eat, and that culminates in energy that we have, so we can sit down here. So for our body, we need food as energy, but in our for livelihood and for everything other thing we do, we require energy for power, for moving our vehicles, for mobility generally, for the airplanes to move from place A to place B, for the trains to move from one place to the other. There are different forms of energy, and they are all very important. And the shortage of energy today has led to the energy crisis we are about to look into. And how has this impacted on each and every one of us, and what are the possible solutions that we have today? And those are some of the things we'll look at. In terms of outline, I'll look at global energy demand, what energy consumption will be, global crude oil cost and the trends we have up until today, and what energy consumption globally is, and from Africa, and also with respect to Nigeria. Global emission crisis. These are one of the things we also need to look at when it comes to the energy industry and the crisis that we have today. There's something I tag the threefold energy crisis. We'll look at that also as we go ahead. The call for action, what we need to do, and what the demand is on us today. Those are some of the things we'll look at today, and what's the solution to the crisis as part of our question. We'll look at that very briefly. So in terms of energy demand, global energy demand is increasing. Statistics I have from 1990 up until 2025, if you look at the graph I have, energy consumption or energy demand globally is increasing. And who are the major users of energy based on the chart we have? We have China, we have other parts of Asia, which India is a huge part of. We have Africa as well, also as an emerging economy and in terms of energy use. And then we have the rest of the world. So these charts show that demand for energy is increasing up until today. And some of the drivers for this increase we'll also look at too, so that we can have like a clear understanding of what is driving energy requirement as we go ahead. I also want to draw our mind that at some point, energy prices came up almost zero during the COVID time. If you look at the chart we have around 2020, the chart I have on the left, the investing chart, I have a red, if you look at my cursor now, I have this red pointer here. It says that energy cost almost came to zero at that point. If you remember during COVID, there was so much oil in different parts of the world, but there was nowhere to take this oil to sell them, so to speak, because all the factories are shut down at that point. So another form of energy crisis came up at that point. Everybody or people were in their home trying to guard against and save their life against COVID-19 pandemic, and that led to two industries to shut down. So there was no consumption of energy, became very, very low, and there was an oversupply. As we all know, for the demand, the theory of demand and supply, when the supply is high and when the demand is low, supply becomes when you have excess of supply, rather, when demand is low. And so that was the case during COVID. And the price of oil at that point, price of oil actually went to negative cost, negative minus, meaning that people that were producing oil at that time, they wanted to give their oil out for free. And a lot of people, probably lawyers, will be wondering, why is this happening? So as an oil and gas engineer, in the fields when we produce oil, we dig deep into the earth crust. We get that oil out, and then we sell it. So we don't want to shut down the wells that are producing, because if you shut down the wells, you will need to do what they call walkover, and walkover costs a lot of money to do that. So at that point, when there was no demand for oil, industries began to shut down their wells, which was not something that was desirable, because they need a lot of money, to revamp those wells to get them working already. So that was why people were ready to give their oil out for free or almost at no cost, and that was not a good thing. But again, this gives us a dynamics of the trend of energy. When you have excess supply of energy, again, people almost get to that point where energy, they are giving out energy for free. And it might be a positive side of the crisis, right? But that was one of the scenarios we saw at some point. Again, going back again to global energy consumption forecast by source, you can see from the chart I have, wood fuel is declining, and that's use of charcoal and all the other sources of energy, right? If you know, in the olden days, charcoal used to be what our parents used for cooking, the source of energy. That is declining seriously as the time is going on. We're transitioning to coal as well. As you are aware, during this crisis that we're having, the Ukraine war, most of the coal power plants that were shut down many years, they've already been reinstated already, and coal is being used against what the World Health Organization and many OPEC has been advising already, which is not a good thing. But because there was an energy crisis, the war has made the supply of crude supply of gas go to almost zero, because Ukraine and Russia are main suppliers of this product, and because they are at war, and the free supply on delivery of all these products to where they are required, and there's a crisis, there's a short supply of energy. There are pipelines running from Ukraine, running from Russia to Europe, and some of these pipelines were shut down for political reasons. That led to, again, a demand for high supply of energy. May I also use this opportunity to say one of the reasons that has also driven the crisis. By crisis, I mean there is high demand for energy, the demand is more than the supply. One of the reasons for that is also population. Globally, population is increasing faster than the demand for energy, fossil fuel energy. So as we go ahead, you see us talk about other forms of energy that are coming to support the fossil fuel energy. So if we talk about another source of crisis is emission, right? When we are using these fossil fuels, to get these fossil fuels to work or to release the energy in it, then there needs to be some form of burning of this energy, and it emits carbon, that is dark carbon, into the atmosphere. We call that emissions, right? And these emissions have negative impact on the environment. If you see from my chart, you see carbon dioxide, right? Another source of emissions into the atmosphere, and the sources of these emissions: agriculture, electricity, other energy sources, and industry, transportation. These are the sources of this carbon dioxide that is not suitable for our own environment. Threefold energy crisis, like I talked about. What are the pressing areas where energy is being impacted and the crisis is coming from? Is in terms of poor infrastructure, because there's this lack of infrastructure or not sufficient infrastructure development, and the increase of energy has not matched the supply of energy. Also, I've talked about greenhouse gases, also the emissions we're talking about, because we are emitting the gases, again, from our refineries and many other sources. We're not able to capture the energy, and we're emitting into the environment, which is also depleting the ozone layer and having a lot of negative impact on our environment. Also, I've talked about population growth and urbanization. These are also very, very key issues that are resulting in this energy crisis. What is the impact of energy crisis? I've talked about global warming. I've talked about environmental degradation. You're all aware from the Nigerian point of view, environmental degradation from vandalization of pipelines in the Niger Delta. You have spill on the environment. They have negative impact on microorganisms that are there for farming, biological organisms that are in the air. They are being damaged because of this environmental impact. I've talked about emissions into the environment from urbanization, from industries. These also have a very, very huge impact. And I also talked about the war, Russia and Ukraine also, and that is impacting on us. These are some of the major issues that have led to the crisis we're talking about. So what do we do? What is the call to action to mitigate energy? Right, so we are now migrating towards sustainable energy, or how do we sustain more energy and we're going into greenhouse gases, we're going into more non-fossil energy. What that means is that we are going towards renewable energy because we want to migrate away from fossil fuel, which is carbon-related energy. We want to go into more renewable. By that, I mean energy that can renew itself when you utilize it. You don't need to do so much for it to come back to its renewed state. Typical example is solar panels, use of solar panels, the use of other sources of energy like wind energy. These are natural sources of energy that we can harness also to support the fossil fuel as we transit into more renewable energy. So there was a demand by the United Nations to say by 2015, when they had the Paris Climate Conference, it was stated there that we need to migrate from fossil fuel to a more renewable energy. And again, the call to action began to, see a lot of springing up of different options. G7 also has added their voice to the volatility of the market. How do we get more sources of energy available? Since we need pipelines, we need there's a global supply of energy. How do we localize this energy? How can we develop energy from our own sources, our local energy? And we'll talk about some of those things as we go ahead. But there was energy crisis in the entire world. Canada is having that. Russia is having that. Europe currently as we speak. And as we get into the colder weather, colder season in Europe, the demand for energy, because they need more energy to cool or to heat in their homes. Unlike our own part when we have air conditioners to cool our environment. There in Europe and most other parts of the world, the environment is cold and they need heating and they need energy for that as well. So these are some of the things that the energy crisis has. The demand for energy is increasing globally from every part of the world. Again, we talked about renewable energy. What are the things we are seeing in terms of renewable energy? We are seeing gas come to play now. We are seeing oil. Though there's a push for renewed oil use, let's use what they call gas. Gas is transition fuel. It is better than crude in terms of the octane content, the energy density, and we're looking at propane, electricity, and solar. These are other sources of energy that we're looking to migrate to while we leave fossil fuel because of its impact on the environment again. So what are some of the solutions we're looking at again? Like I mentioned, we're migrating towards renewable energy. This is where we can get other support for energy as we go ahead amidst the fossil fuel we have, so that the energy gap, the energy deficit can be gotten from some of all these other sources of energy. And 2050 is a timeline that has been set where fossil fuel will be drawn down on fossil fuel use, and renewable energy will be one of the primary sources. I've listed a few of them here. Electric vehicles are coming to play now. Solar panels are coming to play now. We have smart grid in homes where we're looking into energy consumption, because the consumption of energy from most of our devices now is very high. A typical example, if you take a television of 1980 and a television of 2023, you'll find out that the consumption of the one in 2023 is far less. So we're building devices that consume less energy. Your phones, before now we used to have big chargers that are able to drag a lot of energy, but we found out that if we can reduce our device energy consumption, then we can actually help in this drive towards the energy crisis and reducing what our demand is. So there's more requests for energy from wind, from hydropower, from solar, from biomass, and from geothermal. By doing that already, we are drawing down on our use for fossil fuel, and then emission and climatic demand or climatic degradation, environmental degradation also will also reduce. So an emerging integrated solution is what we think about. I've seen some of the questions that the mentees have asked already. When dealing with them, we'll also look at this slide to say, what is the solution we're looking at today? I've talked about energy auditing. Can we audit our energy in our homes? Some of you, when you go out, you leave your light on, you leave your bulb on. Some of you are also some of the problems we're having. So we need to change our culture, our mindset. As I speak to you, I'm in my house, but there's no light. That's part of the energy crisis, right? How do I deal with that? I have little solar panels, little units, energy conservation unit. I have batteries that I store some of the energy so that at time when the energy is not available, we'll use it. And that is where we are going to as a society, where we have battery. If you look at energy storage, when we have battery, we can store our energy to when we need it, right? And one of the things that the smart grid is doing, smart grid is a way where our grid system, where the light is being supplied, we understand when people are not using light, using much energy. and we draw down, we reduce the supply, right? So we are reducing costs. Like at night where industries are not open, when companies are not working, we draw down, we reduce the energy being supplied. By that already, the global energy requirements, we are reducing that. So from the slide I have already, we're moving towards electric vehicles. We're looking at flexible loading of our houses, right? When there's peak need, we release more energy. When there's no peak need, we draw down on the energy requirement. By doing all these behavioral changes, we're drawing down on the energy requirement, and then the crisis will actually reduce. Grid interactive buildings are buildings that give energy when you need and reduce when the supply is not there. These are some of the technologies that are coming to play here. I believe some of you talked about it in your slides also. For those of us that live in Lagos, we have seen electric vehicles coming into play. We're no more using those fossil fuel buses that are running. Lagos State government have pioneered use of electric buses for transportation. By doing this already, emissions have been reduced. I will not want to end without talking about energy law, which is also a very important part where all of you come in. And Tinubu had just signed the 2023 electricity bill into law. Talks about energy generation. What is the problem? Because our energy generation, transmission, and then distribution is being done in a way that model doesn't align to the new energy philosophy. So now people can generate energy from different locations, even from your house, or individuals can generate and then sell them. All this is driven towards ensuring that energy is available and that crisis is being dealt with as we go ahead. So that will be all I want to talk about today. I believe that my co-mentor also have other areas to just to also buttress this fact of energy crisis. But I believe there's also a way, by some of these behavioral changes we've talked about today, we're able to migrate from that energy crisis to a point where we have abundance of energy to use. But again, our character, our behavior has to change so that we use less energy more than a season where we consume so much energy that is not required. So those behaviors will help us to go to an energy abundant season, which we look for by 2050 and the likes, when we get more engaged in renewable energy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to you, Williams, and I'll hand over to my fellow mentor for his own input. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We really, or I personally, I don't know about our mentees, but I personally enjoyed that presentation, and I would like to see our mentees react. If you did enjoy that presentation, please, I would like to see you react. I'm sure we learned a thing or two. Going forward in the energy industry, reducing, trying to solve that, trying to address the energy crisis. Partly a role we have to play in terms of behavioral modification that we have to adopt in terms of our electricity usage and other forms of energy usage that we take. So thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful presentation. We'll be having Mr. Ayobami. Mr. Ayobami is on call today. I was notified that he will not be here too long with us, but I'm sure in this little time that he will be with us, he will also be able to take us through a brief or more insightfully into the energy crisis, the impacts and possible solution. Mr. Ayobami, sir, you're welcome to today's class. Thank you for joining us. Please, sir, the floor is yours. You can come and also help us address this topic, sir.
Yes, thank you so much, Dennis. Good morning, all. I believe I say in the morning. Yes, we're in the morning. Good morning, all. Sorry, I'm quite out and about today. I mean, quite a busy day for me. I'm currently calling from a project site, actually. And okay, again, has spoken brilliantly well about the crisis in which we're facing in this country. And I would love to take my own discussions just to add to his on the regulatory side and a bit of the economic or finance part of it. Why? Because I'm trying to, as much as possible, talk in the practical sense of what I've seen and experienced. Now you're, like I always say, as a lawyer and as a research person, you're always allowed to have diverse views about things, as long as you can logically present it. So I'm just basically talking about what I have seen. Luckily for me, I've been involved both in oil and gas and generation part of the power. And also, I've also done being a commercial director for as a consultant to an oil and gas company, that have a marginal oil field and some marine vessels. So I'll try to talk from that particular aspect to us. So I'll break it down into three: the oil and gas, the power, and the renewables. Now, but in regulatory part of oil and gas, we know about the PIA, Film Industry Bill, which was enacted in 2021, and the fact remains is that that brought about NNPC to NNPC Limited, the Upstream Commission, the Downstream Authority, segmented all the oil and gas into several factors. But the fact remains is that, based on my personal experience, I feel the law is there, but the practicality of it is still not existing. I keep saying this: NNPC is still being run like a government agency. You hear NNPC boss come out and tell you that, we're increasing the price of fuel and all those things. I mean, it's not a government agency anymore. It's supposed to be a limited liability company where people can even, if possible, where there'll be a board, and maybe if possible, it can even go to a PLC. So it's been run like a state government agency. And same thing with the conversions of licenses. Yes, the Act gives looks like 18 months, if I'm sure. If I'm correct, to convert from the old kind of licenses to the new kind of licenses. But, things have been pretty slow. So the law is there, and we can't see the effectiveness of the law or not if the practicality of it is not being done. So that's a big issue we're having. So I'm still curious to know how an NNPC Limited will run like a true limited liability company it is, and not like the old NNPC we had. So the law is there. I feel the law is not the NNPC, the PIA didn't really address enough provisions on renewables. It spoke a bit about gas flaring, but when it comes to environmental sustainability, I think much is still left to be done. So it shows that the writers of the law are more interested in making profits than in being environmental sustainable. That's what it shows. Because gas flaring gives a fine, for example. And one joker once told me that if he owns a oil field, he will gladly pay the fine because it's cheaper to pay the fine, than to stop it. So that's it. So the problem now is that there's a law, but how impactful or how strong it is to stop all these gas flaring and all, then the whole environmental spillage and everything. So I feel the law should have been done better in that way, but honestly, it's too early to talk. It's not too early in 2023, 2 years after, but honestly, we won't know how effective the law is if it's not being put into practice in the first place. So that's where I think there's a crisis in the PIA. So the PIA seems to be a very good law, but let's test it. Let's put it on. Let's know how effective it is. That's the question. So economically, of course, we know that in Nigeria, we are over-reliant on oil and gas, our crude and everything, exports, are so relying on it that but yet to truly diversify into other sectors in the economy to help our GDP. So, I mean, the fact remains is that Nigeria, I can't blame them. Nigeria, if you say that Nigeria should cross from fossil fuel into renewables, how will we eat? That's the question. How will we pay our foreign debts? How will we put money in our foreign reserves? So that's the journey. So it won't be automatic. It has to be a gradual process, because we have to think about what we eat first before we start thinking about the environment. Unfortunately, that's where we are in Nigeria at the moment, because somewhere in the past we have missed it when we should have more alternatives. When we used to have agriculture, I mean, cocoa house in the Ibadan was built processed from cocoa, for example. We used to have alternatives, but oil seems to have dominated the whole GDP scale, and we are super reliant on it. So it's now a how do we balance making money for Nigerians, and how do we balance being environmental sustainable? That's the question, and that's for you and me to answer, basically, So on the power, let me touch quickly on the power before my time runs up. On the power, of course, we know about the Electricity Act 2023 that was signed some few months ago, and which is even inviting private individuals. I think I remember mentioning this last week that you as a private individual are even allowed to generate like 1 megawatts of electricity and sell to your neighbors, and without the need for license from Nigeria Electricity Commission, so that's it. So we're trying to encourage private individuals to start. Everybody start having a mini grid in their house. I have one in my street. I give everybody in my street power. I make some money also. I don't need a license for that. So now when it's more than 1 megawatts, that's when you need a license from the government. So also I've seen the states, being given the authority to have authority to grant licenses and regulate generation and distribution and transmission. But I must point out something quite important on transmission leg. Why the act, to me, in my own personal opinion, is not so clear on transmission leg. So the act says yes, the private individual a company can go into transmission, but the act was also qualifying it to say that it has to be when there's a place not covered by the government. Maybe that's when the Transmission Commission of Nigeria is not covering, or two, when the Transmission Commission of Nigeria requires help in a particular region. So that means outrightly, the license cannot be given to you for transmission except TCN says they have a need in that particular area. So and that's where it's always been an issue, because why last week we were discussing, and I remember Alexandra talking about that generate 13 megawatts generation, and I think transmission can get 8 and distribution can only get 4. And the fact remains is this: that's 4,000 megawatts, rather 30,000 megawatts. And the fact remains is this: the Gencos are still insisting that they can make more than 13,000. But you don't expect them. They say they can go as large as maybe because I am biased because I consult for the Gencos, but they are saying that they can go as much as 30,000 megawatts. But what is the use of having 30,000 megawatts if transmission leg can only accept like 8,000 megawatts? So that is why they are not willing. And they have two issues. One, transmission leg cannot take all the power they generate. Two, the financing of that. They believe that they're pumping money in and they're not making enough. That's always been the argument of Gencos. So Gencos are saying that if transmission leg is being privatized, more companies are into transmission and distribution, then they can actually meet 30,000 megawatts, which would be enough for the country and enough to export. But the two things they need to be tackled is, one, will they be able to make their money if they make so much investment? Because unfortunately, CBN still gives a loan at double digits. Except if they have changed yesterday. Last time I checked, they were still giving double digits loan. So when I pay 20-something% of interest on the loan, that's quite huge. So how do you build the power industry? How do you build the capacity there? So if you can tackle that for them, make readily loans that are single digits, 6%, 7%, and ensure that they make their monies. Unfortunately, power in Nigeria is still being, they say they have removed subsidy, but I still believe it's quite cheap. Unfortunately, yes, the economy is bad, but it's still quite cheap. So these Gencos are shouting, we can generate more if you give us finance, and make sure that we make our money. So as I said, the transmission leg is so critical, but the government cannot do it alone. So while the Act opens it up for private individuals, it still gives TCN or the government a right to appoint who controls transmission, which that's where the issue is. I prefer if it was open to everybody can go into it, and that way you start having 24/7 lights at home and all those other like. So yes, so state governments too. The Lagos State government has made their own law already, I believe. So state government should also invest in that. That way it will improve the power sector in their surroundings, basically. So and I've spoken on the finance already that these people need readily loans at a cheaper rate so that they can actually generate more power for everyone. And of course, we as consumers should be ready to pay more. We should really be ready to pay more because that's what they're shouting. They're investing money. Those are making their money, basically. Discos will tell you that those that have power plants are making their money are basically those that are servicing specific places. Now, you have shoreline energy, for example, transmitted, I think, in Agbara Estates. So those ones, they have a particular who they are servicing. So those people can charge, and they're making their money, But when it's not open to you and I, Jekos just starts screaming, that they can make that money, So that's basically the finance part. So on renewables, yes, more investment is required. Unfortunately, it's still cheaper to generate to go into oil and gas and power when it comes to non-renewables. Yeah, the fossil fuel, because technology is cheaper. You can make more bulk energy can be created. So when you start coming into the renewables, you hear that they tell you how many solar panels do we need to build to generate the same thing. That's the question. So it's more expensive, it's capital intensive, and so that's the issue we're having with the renewables. Yes, the regulation-wise, there's been there's a Nigerian Energy Transition Plan, which tries to encourage renewables. Also, the Climate Change Act too encourages renewables. Even said that we should be filing reports and everything, but of course, how visible is that? Who files reports? Almost nobody, I believe. I've not heard of anybody filing a report on that. So the thing is that we try to have laws, the laws are there, but how practicable are they? That's the question. I've spoken about the Climate Change Act, spoken about the PIA, spoken about the Electricity Act. These laws are there, but how practical are they? And that's where you come in as lawyers. We know the law, but honestly, is it what is in practice? That's the question we ask ourselves. So, energy crisis, yes, it's real. Oil and gas, power, renewables is real, yes. But are we doing as much as we should? I don't think so. We have on the renewables, we have a climate, we have a 2060 goal to get to net zero. Are we doing anything? I don't think so. I think we need like $400 million, I think. So where we get the monies from, we don't know. So that's the question. So then that's the question you ask yourself. Then how do we differentiate between wanting Nigeria to make money for the economy and going into clean energy? How to differentiate that? Is the nexus. If Nigeria pushes on 2060 goal, our revenues will be less. So these are questions we should ask ourselves and we should discuss. Like I said, there's usually no right and wrong answer, especially if you can present your thoughts logically and well. So I hope that's helped. I'll try to stay around still because I'm still on the project site, but and I'll chip in as much as I can. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayobami. Thank you for helping us to go through a run-through of the energy crisis in those sectors, fossil fuel sector, the power sector, and still renewable. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your presence here. We don't take it for granted. Please, can we have our mentees also appreciate Mr. Ayobami for taking out time to help us give a run-through the energy crisis in those industries. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll now we want this section. I want this section to be very, very interactive. So mentees, please, you can start preparing your questions. You can start jotting down from the points you've jotted down. I want you to start gathering questions. Let's challenge our mentors. Let's test the depths of their knowledge on this topic, to say the least. So we would like to right now have our presentations, group 1 and group 2, if that's possible, right? Can we have the group presenters so that they can make their presentations and we can move on with the rest of the section? And you have 15 minutes for your presentation each. Please, let's make that snappy and let's go into that. Group presenters, please, are you ready? Group 1. Group 1 presenter, are you with us?
Yes, I'm ready, sir.
Yeah, all right,
yes,
please go ahead. Sir.
Okay, so good morning. We'll be making a presentation on the energy crisis. Yeah, as our first mentor rightly said, the energy crisis arises when there is no equilibrium between the energy demand and the energy supply, meaning when the energy demand outweighs supply, because so there will be energy crisis due to the lack of adequate supply of energy resources in the economy. And it takes different forms such as blackouts, that's power outage. I mean, the inconsistent supply of energy in Nigeria is a good example of an energy crisis. Increase in energy costs, the increase in fuel price, also as a result of energy crisis, and geopolitical issues. And energy crisis is majorly caused by over dependence on fossil fuels. We are well aware that fossil fuels come from the remnant of dead organisms and dead sea creatures, and therefore it is very, very it is not it cannot be replenished. It can be extinct. It can go into extinction. So there's this need to also transit into cleaner energy to resolve this energy crisis. So that's just what energy crisis is, when the energy demand cannot meet the supply, where there is no equilibrium. Basically, that's what energy crisis is. So under the next slide, we'll talk about the impact on energy crisis. Talk about the economic impact. Energy crisis has grievous economic impact on the society, because first things first, with the increasing population comes increasing industrialization, and we all know that this industry require power for to produce, and then trade is like economics, and trade is like the bedrock of any society. So there's this it affects the production, it has its own economic effect, and geopolitical tension. I think we are aware of the Bakassi Peninsula disputes that arose between Nigeria and Cameroon. There's this dispute about territorial boundaries, because the extent of your territorial boundaries is a full description, or gives us a description of the extent of your control of the oil resources in that region. And also, we're also aware of the disputes in the Gulf of Guinea, between Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, Gabon, and Cameroon, still same Cameroon. So this this lack of this energy crisis has resulted into political tension and disputes amongst different countries, and energy scarcity, like I said, power outages in Nigeria, the lack of adequate supply of electricity is a major concern in the country. And we'll talk about the environmental effects. By that, we talk about climate change, melting of sea ice. There's this distortion in climate, so it's somewhat very unpredictable these days, and that's because of the large emission of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and the destruction and depletion of the ozone layer. And we also talk about innovation and investment. Yes, another impact, although this is a positive impact, so that all impacts cannot be negative in themselves. The energy crisis has also led to an increase in awareness of the need, or it has also projected the necessity of investing in renewable sources such as solar, biomass, wind energy, and the likes. And also, it affects the it also has humanitarian impacts, and by humanitarian impacts we mean it affects supply of healthcare. When there's no electricity, it's very difficult to treat drinkable water, and basically, so it just has tremendous negative impact on the economy. Next, we talk of the impact of energy crisis on Nigeria. So first of all, we'll talk about the economic consequences. Yes, we'll talk about how this energy crisis affects production and industrialization, thereby affecting the global economy. We talk about energy costs. That's the sporadic increase in fuel prices that we are currently seeing in Nigeria today. we have the environmental impacts too. Thirdly, we have the inequality. Yes, inequality, because there's this bridge and margin between persons or regions that have access to electricity and regions that are underserved, regions which are underserved in Nigeria. So the standard of living, the condition of living, the social amenities are not the same. There's this difference in both sectors. We have energy security. Yes, there's no energy security, meaning that we are not guaranteed of any form of energy generation or distribution, because today there is one grid breakdown. This grid has broken down, just still part of the energy crisis, and thus it undermines energy security in the country, and it also further highlights the need for energy transition from fossil fuel into cleaner energy. Exactly. So, and we've talked about the geopolitical tension too. We talk about the dispute in the Gulf of Guinea, the dispute over Bakassi Peninsula, and the big dispute that arises between nations over the control, production, and harnessing of energy resources. Yeah. So we're talking about causes of energy crisis, crisis, and the first cause of energy crisis is an increase in demand. Like I said, the population is increasing, and with increasing population comes an increasing demand in energy supply, because everything is powered by electricity. Everything is powered by some form of fuel or the other. So with an increasing population, increasing industrialization, increased tourist activity, there is this need of supplying adequate electricity energy resources that can make the progress of the economy feasibility. Yeah. So next we have increased industrialization, speaking about that, and lack of investment. Lack of investment in renewable sources is also a major form of energy crisis, because like we know, we are in Nigeria, we are mainly oil dependent, and even because we are all dependent, our electricity is also produced from oil. That's natural gas. We use thermal mechanisms to produce our electricity. I understand that we have natural gas in surplus quantity in Nigeria, but the storage, the transmission, and the further reproduction of this natural gas into electricity is a major challenge for the Nigerian economy. So this has also grossly impacted and heightened the energy crisis in Nigeria. And also talk about ineffective power distribution and transmission system. I think our grids are able of our grids are capable of producing about 10,000 to 20,000 megawatts. But our transmission systems can only transmit about 4,000 to 5,000 megawatts, and which is very and grossly inadequate for the entire Nigerian society. I mean, a country of about 200 million or population depending on over 5,000 megawatts as such, it's laughable and quite ridiculous, to say the least. So next we talk about give me a moment. Oh yeah, we talk about again, climate change and the rest. So talking about if effect of energy crisis, and the first thing that comes to mind is climate change. The dependency on oil and gas basically as the primary source of energy resource in Nigeria has led to huge contribution to energy degradation and climate change, because we all know that after oil is drilled, and just because they want to extract oil in the massive quantity, they have to flare these gases, and these flaring of gases doesn't come with its own it comes with its own consequences, because the excess carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere, and because it also affects crops, the groups of crops, and the health challenges, because people in the east are more prone to carbon-induced illness than people in the West, because that is where the oil and exploitation and exploration and flaring of gas is done in the country. Another challenge is the increase in fuel price and prices of other products. So when there is energy crisis such as what we have in Nigeria, there's this increase in fuel price, and we all know that the increase that the Nigeria economy, for instance, is fuel dependent, oil dependent. So an increase in fuel price, or a hike in fuel price, would result or will greatly influence the prices of other commodities in the market. And that is the sad reality of the Nigerian economy today. And we also have political disturbances and tourists, its effect on tourism, because at the end of the day, when tourists come into Nigeria, they would need to move, they would require accommodation. So all these things take energies. They require energy and supply of energy resources. But when a country is full of energy crisis, international tourist organizers or international tourist companies would leave the country, as we already seen, because of its the energy crisis is bad for business in Nigeria. So it affects the tourism sector greatly, and there's this social effect. Yes, there's this social effect it has, because when there is good energy and we have stable supply of electricity, they'll be able to good food supply, good drinking water. We have a good, people can better exercise and express their rights to life, right to movement, and because you would basically live long, because now there's comfort. But where there's energy crisis, there's this relationship between energy crisis and social standard of living, because where there's where the energy crisis is high, there will definitely be poor, very low social standard of living, and that's because there is this connection between the supply of energy and the comfortability that a person can enjoy from their home or from their work. I mean, just imagine there's no lights at home, there's no light at work. The level of conduciveness of that environment is reduced drastically. So the energy crisis also grossly affects the social standard of living in the economy. Yes, and next we have solutions to energy crisis. Solution to energy crisis was I think there are two in this slide. There are like two basic solutions. And first is that the implementation, the formation and implementation of policies and laws and regulations to better guarantee the effectiveness of energy and energy security and supply in the community. And also so when we talk about the formation of any regulation, we'd like to talk about the Electricity Act of 2023, which provides for the regionalization of the energy market, privatization of energy generation, meaning that every private individuals can now generate electricity and distribute electricity that is equivalent or less than 1,000 megawatt, I guess. And so that's just it. And also it also allows gives tax incentives and tax reliefs to persons or industries who are ready to adopt this renewable energy production mechanism. So there's this tax incentive. So the tax ecosystem is now structured in such a way that it promotes the exploitation of renewable energy in the country, and the electricity has other provision that further expedites the transition from fossil fuel into cleaner energy. So next we have reducing energy demand. Yes, why this is a solution is that in Nigeria we keep saying that energy is not enough. Energy is not enough. We need greater supply of energy, but the fact is, even the little energy that we are wasting the energy. And one of the ways you can reduce energy demand is to use devices that do not require so much energy to function, such as replacing traditional bulbs with LED lights, and just use energy conservative devices so as to make available some certain type of energy to the rest of the masses. Next, we have energy audits. Yes, and energy audit is basically you carrying out an assessment of the amount of energy you use in your house, in your offices, and then you discovering, how do I put it? You are carrying out an assessment of the total number of energy units, or the watts, or the units you use, and then you're also like discovering energy leakages, or places where this energy are being utilized or being wasted. So you just conduct an energy audit, know that, okay, yeah, this particular sector of our factory, not so much energy is required, and so much energy is being transmitted there, and then there's wastage, and then there are leakages. So we just have a way of covering it up and making good the situation. So next, we have government regulations and policies that tend to greatly and positively affect the energy industry. That's government regulations that are judged towards the reduction of energy crisis in Nigeria. And first is the Nigerian Renewable Energy Policy. That's a policy that seeks to promote the usage of renewable energies in Nigeria. The Nigerian Electricity Management Service Agency, that's an agency that's established with the responsibility and oversight function of the whole electricity industry. And the Nigerian Energy Transition Plan, which is a plan that seeks to promote the transition of the country. We're supposed to help transition the country from the use of fossil fuel to that into clean energy. And also it's also to make recommendations as to mechanisms and ways by which this clean energy structures can be better managed and utilized. So the next is what we have on the next slide is the recommendations. So the first recommendation is that we should embrace renewable energy sources. Yes, we should look at solar. That's should look at the use of wind, biomass, and other forms of electricity renewable sources, rather than just dependent on fossil fuels. Because even from the generation stage, that's the drilling where they have to flare these gases. I mean, so much carbon dioxide is already being expelled into the atmosphere, and then it has its own gross economic impact, economic and environmental impact on the Nigerian society. So yes, we should look at the use and should look at and embrace the use of renewable energy. Another one is the purchase of smart grid. Last week I was explaining what a smart grid is. So a smart grid is just like a digitalized grid, and it allows for two-way communication. That's a communication between the manufacturer and the generator of the electricity, and the consumer, so you can communicate directly with the generators of these electricities. And also it also allows for electricity storage. Yes, because it allows you to store electricity. I don't think our grids do they store electricity. I'm not aware, but I know that these smart grids, they allow for electricity storage and the rest. And next is sustainable policies and incentives. Yes, the Nigerian government should also, like, we should not just make these policies, because in law we fondly say that Nigeria, we have a plethora of regulations regulating each sector of the electricity. The problem is not even the formation of regulation. The problem is the implementation. We just and enact laws just to show that we've enacted laws, but these laws are poorly executed, and in some cases, that's if at all they are even executed in some other cases. So next on our recommendation list, we also recommend energy storage solution. Energy storage solution. Yes, the reason why we recommend energy storage solution is to deal with the intermittencies of renewable energy. If wind, for instance, is not such a stable source of energy, because it has to do with forces which are not in the control of human beings, exactly, because we can't control when and how wind would come in what direction, and then we can't control the frequency with which the wind would approach a particular direction. So we should create advanced batteries which will help store this electricity where the wind is being captured in large quantities, so it can be further dispensed or used when we have shortage of wind supply. Next, we have the electrification of transportation. Yeah, so we should subscribe to the use of electric trains, electric cars, and other electric transportation mechanisms, and also electric ships. I mean, the carbon footprint of a ship is crazy. Honestly, the carbon footprint of a ship is crazy. So if we could get to the smart ships that do not require so much use of fossil fuels, I believe that we can help reduce or douse the energy crisis in the country. And the next is carbon pricing. So carbon pricing is just how they explain it. Carbon pricing is like you're putting a price on carbon emission. So there are two forms of carbon pricing. We have carbon taxes and we have cap and trade. So under carbon taxes, the government tax you for the amount of carbon you produce. Before that tax is imposed on industries or companies, there is an assessment that is being carried out. This assessment tries to factor in the socioeconomic impact of the carbon waste your company produces, the health impact on the society, and the impact it has on farming crops, because these crops are also affected by this greenhouse gas emission. So they factor of everything before they tax your company. So that's what we call the carbon tax. And next is the cap and trade. So what it means is that the government will come and give you guys a carbon emission allowance to a certain degree. So let's say there are two companies, company A and company B. Company A doesn't produce as much as company B, so obviously, but they have bigger tax allowances. What company A can do, or what company B can do, is that they can buy the carbon allowance from company A, because company A is not producing so much, but they have bigger tax allowances, so they can buy it, they can sell it, they can exchange it, so that they have the license and the permits to emit gas to a certain degree. These are just government initiative to help mitigate tax production in Nigeria. Next, we have sustainable policies. We have research and innovation. We have global cooperation. So conclusively would say that in my opinion, and the opinion of my group members, for us to help deal with this energy crisis, there has to be this public-private partnership, a partnership between the government and a partnership between members of the society to help reduce the energy crisis. And this partnership is not in its sense the technical public-private partnership, because I know how the public-private partnership works is that private individuals come and invest in the public sector in a government project, and then they get their return on investment after some certain time. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a contributory effort from both the government agency and private individuals towards the reduction of energy crisis in the country. I think that's the end of the presentation, and thank you for your time. That's the end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adeoye. Yes, Adeoye Ronkola. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name very well. That was a wonderful presentation. It showed you had you have an in-depth knowledge on the subject matter of discourse. So we'd like to, before we have Group 2 come and present, we would like to have our mentors also come and give their commendation and recommendations and also observations on the presentation that was made by Group 1. And as our mentor do that, please, Group 2, you can also start getting ready for your presentation. Firstly, we'd like to call on Mr. Ayobami to come and give his own take on the presentation that was made. Yes, sir. Mr. Ayobami, are you with us, sir?
Oh, sorry. Just for a second. Yeah, so my comment on the presentation, I believe. Hello, is that what I'm supposed to give?
It's on the presentation.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I was trying to pay attention to on and off, and basically I was hearing a lot about the finance angle, and I was like, these guys really did their homework. Yeah, you know, and I mean, it's a pretty good presentation, but like I always say, I'm particular about referencing, you know, then also your personal voice. That's where I think I didn't hear enough. What are your opinions? Like I've told you guys, there's no right and wrong answers as long as you have your data, you have your references, and you can provide a solution, you know, not just solution on theory, a practical solutions. So that's why I think you guys would have done better. You know, what do we do exactly? That's the question. You know, there's crisis, but how do we tackle those crises? You know, that's why I think the storyline was beautiful, but it's the conclusion part of your own voice in conclusion that I think was missing. You know, so apart from that, I mean, it was a very beautiful presentation. Well done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayoban. That's observation and recommendation. We'd like to have Mr. Okeogene also come and give his observation and recommendations as regards the presentations that was made by Group 1.
All right, thank you very much. Group 1, I think you guys did very well. Excellent presentation, though the number of slides were a bit more. I think we've emphasized this already when we're having the conversations already before now to say we need to have minimum number of slides. But I think the fact that they were able to capture a wider detail, because on our own we didn't want to, we just wanted to introduce you to the subject so that you have an idea. But at least they went a bit into it to talk about carbon emissions and how they can be dealt with. I think that was a good effort in going into all that details. I like the fact that they talked about the carbon allowances, carbon footprints, and what not, because it is very critical to understand, especially in this part of the world. Anything goes here. But again, the issue of electrification of every aspect of the economy is happening very, very quickly, like transportation, I'm also in the marine sector as well. Most of the vessels that are building and newer vessels are all fully electrified, meaning that they don't have marine engines in them, and then they can be controlled from everywhere. In fact, you don't even need a captain to run them because they are satellite controlled. Also the issue of also electric trains, electric vehicles for autonomous vehicles and all that. It is renewable energy that is giving that or lower carbon footprint, as the case may be here, that is giving rise to that. And they went deep down to talk about all these concepts, and I want to give it to them. But like my colleague has talked about, a few things were still deficient. I think they can work on that. Also, in terms of implementation of policies, I think they didn't deal more. But this is a legal platform. There's the issue on regulation and how the status of regulation is today and what can be improved on. We must take this very seriously. That this is not an academic exercise that we're just coming to get information from the internet and we'll just put it here. No, there must be a contribution from each and every one. What is our own thoughts? What are we putting on the table? What are our suggestions? Because we must localize solutions, global solutions. We must do that. That's one thing we must do. There are solutions around the entire world. Solutions in the US don't really fit Nigerian solutions, right? Our lawyers, our engineers, our technocrats, we must localize and domesticate some of the technologies, some of the laws. This is the only way we can survive, and we must teach this to the younger generation. We're not just going to consume knowledge, no, but how do we interpret this in terms of our own environment, and how can we make the difference? That is one of the things that we preach here today, and we must sound this very, very, very loud for the next generation to be solution oriented, not just turning in knowledge in and out. That would be my contribution. But I think these are the very good presentations from the first week, second week, third week. I'll rate this presentation very high. Well done to the entire team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okeogene, for that contribution. Quickly, we would like to have Group 2 come and make their presentation. Group 2, if you're ready, come up. Group 2 presenter, rather, if you're ready, please come up for your presentation. Please, who is presenting for Group 2? Please, we're waiting for you. Group 2, can anyone hear me? Either the presenter or the backup presenter. Are you ready? We have someone from Group 2, please step in and make the presentation. Okay, I don't know what seems to be the matter why Group 2 is reluctant to come make their presentation, but please, we would like to hear your presentation, see your views. I'm sure this is actually a very, very nice topic to talk about. Obviously, we know that there is a bridge between demand of supply in terms of energy, and in itself that is a crisis where we have so much demand on energy, electricity, power in general, and the supply we get is limited. We have countries that are totally electrified. I was speaking with a friend from Canada, and she said their system completely runs on, they have a system that runs almost completely on electrification. So, well, coming down to our own sector, we would like to hear from our mentees how they feel, and in terms of their presentation, how we can now begin to address issues as regarding our own local problems. So please, can we have Group 2 also come and make their presentation if they're ready? Okay. Well, since Group 2 are not ready to take their presentation, please, can we have questions? Are there questions from the group, from members on team, right? The people on call. Are there?
Sorry, Dennis. This is Ayabami. can they give a reason why they can't have their presentation? Is there a particular thing, any particular issue? It would be good to hear from them, if possible.
All right, group. So is there a reason why you guys are not ready?
All right,
Okay.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Mr. Williams.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, Oluchi.
Okay, I am Oluchi, a member of Group 2. Okay, so I feel like the reason why we're unable to come up with our presentation for today is because the presenter and the backup presenter are absent, and there is no other person who actually prepared for this role. So we are really sorry about that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Just to sit Oluchi. Oluchi was the person that presented last week, right? I think she was the one that did the presentation last week. In fact, when I looked at the slides, I think you guys have a very beautiful slide. And the number of slides, around 12 or so, or 30, they are not much. You have the opportunity to present, and I noticed your presentation skills improved. This might seem like we're putting you on the spot, but if nobody's presenting, I think it takes away that credibility from your team. I would not want to put you on the spot, but I believe it's something you can take, you can run through. One of the reasons why we are here on the call, and I hear that very, very well for Ayobami, he's currently on a project site, but we owe you guys that responsibility to prepare the next generation. He's the senior lawyer that's been in the, but he has taken his own time to be here. Same as myself as well. I'm a very busy person as well. As I'm talking to you, my kids are running around, but I've dedicated my time to be here so that we pass knowledge to the next generation. This is what we owe, because knowledge passed around is knowledge that can be refined and improved upon. And this does not show that people appreciate the time as mentors that we put here. And also for GIIPC, being fair to GIIPC for ensuring that we are here. So the only encouragement we can get is that when we speak, people listen. Right, that's the only encouragement. I'm speaking for myself. I believe that my co-mentor feels the same way. That is the least that we can do to get people out there that are listening, so that things can get better in our society. So if you are not ready, it's fine. But I think this is around 12 to 14 slides. It's not a big deal, but it gives your group a voice, and it gives us and GIIPC the fact that somebody is listening and people are eager to learn. That's all. That's all we look out for. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for the offer. I really appreciate it, but I feel like I am not fully equipped to actually take up the presentation. And on behalf of Group 2, I really want to apologize, and we promise that such a mistake will not occur again. No problem, that's fair. At least you didn't hide from the fact that you didn't say that you are not available on the call. So I understand that, and no pressure at all. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Oluchi, for helping clarify some of the problems people had. So we'll be taking questions right now. Are there questions from the participants that are here on call? Do you have your questions? This is a very, very wonderful topic that we've treated. I myself have questions, and I'll be throwing my own questions to our mentors for them to give us insights. But I want us to also take questions. Like, I want to hear from our mentees. I want to hear their questions so that our mentors can share more insights. I'm sure everything as regards in your research, anything you did not cover everything as regards the energy as regards energy crisis. So please, if you have questions, we would like to take them. So we would like to take live questions, and you can also drop your questions on the chat box. Can you guys hear me? Are there questions? Okay. Okay, we'll be taking the first question now, and I would like to direct it to Mr. Okeogene. The question is, what progress is Nigeria making in improving renewable energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions?
right, thank you very much for that question. What progress is Nigeria making improving renewable energy? I think first of all, I want to talk about the roadmap that Nigeria has set, just like many other nations. I think there's a demand on most of the African countries from Europe, where several pacts have been signed already, that wants to see the progression of energy from fossil fuel to more renewable energy. And this made Jonathan at his time to sign certain laws, and we began to sign to that pact. By 2030. We should have dropped emission by 20%, and by 2050, would have dropped it by 50% already. I think, first of all, having that roadmap is a very bold step that we have taken as a nation to say we are engaging, we are putting our signature behind it to say we can walk this process. And that has been something very fantastic. From my own point of view, I see that several organizations, someone talked about the public and private sector partnerships, as well as partnering with international agencies. There's been a lot that has been done in this space. And I think that a lot of renewable energy plants are being run now in different areas in the nation, especially in the north. There are a lot of big renewable energy plants. I hear a lot being built in Abuja. I've contacted many foreign agencies that said we're building solar plants and PV centers in Abuja, especially for solar energy plants. And also, if our energy generation expert was here, you will find out that most of the energy generation that has been done in Nigeria for power, they are most done by hydro plants, and those hydro plants are renewable energy sources. So most of the energy generation that we currently use in Nigeria before 2002, where the new discos began to come, when they used gas turbines and coal, most of them were hydro plant, and hydro is also a part of a renewable. So it doesn't seem very much that we are very, very compliant to renewable energy or reducing greenhouse, but Nigeria actually is, because our energy generation sources, more than 50% of it is in renewable. But from the part where energy grid is collapsing, and when these renewable sources have collapsed out, Nigerians now go to generators. That's where the problem comes in. So we see more generators around, or people dragging past my neighbor and all the generators we have. So there's a lot of gas emission from those CO2 and carbon dioxide emission that comes from where the grid fails. And that's what we must tackle. So from the new law that was signed in 2023, if we give responsible companies to do the power generation, then the issue of greenhouse gases will drop very, very minimally, especially from the point of power generation. Then we will go to industrialization, where there's a lot of emission also from petrochemical and from other industrialization in related operations. Then that's another area where we can also use taxes and carbon pricing also to reduce some of those issues. But again, I want to tilt towards what my co-mentor has said. Is this in favor of Nigeria? I want to say no, because we are a fossil fuel-based country. Crude oil, gas, and coal has made us very rich. If we're delving and running full blast in each direction, how do we sell our crude? How do we make foreign direct investment? How do we get funds to pay our loans that we're owing? These are some very, very quiet questions behind the scene, why a lot of all this renewable thing is not moving as fast as it should, because Nigeria is going to lose value from that very key part that we have played very seriously. But generally, I believe that there's a lot of progress that has been made in the renewable space. As we speak, I'm also into electric vehicles. A lot of electrification of mobility is happening, even in the train sector, in the electric sector. So a lot is being done in this space, and I would say kudos to entrepreneurs that are looking to bring these new solutions. But basically, on the long run, it's going to hurt Nigeria, because we're going to lose a very, very important stream of income, not just to technocrats and oil companies, but also to the Nigerian economy. That will be my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that answer to that question. And we'll be taking the next question from Amir. We'll be taking that question. It's how can we as youth give our contributions to overcome energy crisis? If possible, can you mention a few steps that we can take in this regard? I think based on this question, Mr. Okeogene talked about a few things we can do in terms of behavioral modifications, in terms of our lights, our electricity, our power usage, and some other things in that direction. But we would like to also hear from Mr. Ayobami if he has anything to say as in this regard. How can we as youths?
Well, basically, I would say R&D, research and development, is quite key. Do your research, and that's one of the reasons why I said that for your research work should also provide solutions, basically, not just in the theoretical way, but more practical, sustainable solutions, basically. So, yes. And apart from that, I mean, most of you maybe end up in a Forbes list, and of course, you can also invest a lot in your country, in more like renewable energy. So, and of course, it's as little as when you're going out of your house, you put off the lights. That's a way you can help. Don't bypass your meter for your generator and for your pumping machine or for your security lights and everything. So in that way, we're having, no matter how small, an impact on it. But most likely, I believe, and I know Okeogene would agree with me in this, that it's still it's a good investment opportunity for the future. But you need to start now, because if you want to build a power plant, for example, I mean, it is not done overnight, but you need to start. It's a good investment, and this is something that we should think also. You want to make the money, yes, diversify. There are new technologies that have been introduced in the renewable energy space, and there are lots of them that's not been done in Nigeria yet. So these are ways you can, broaden your horizon, look for investment opportunities. Yeah, a lawyer doesn't mean the lawyer might not be able to pay your bill, but so you need, other opportunities of making some money, and investment in the power and oil and gas and renewable energy is for the future, but you have to start now, so that you be the first partaker of it in the future. So apart from that, I believe off your lights when you use during the day, off your lights, basically. You don't need it, and as much as possible, help conserve energy so that it can go around and we can have more energy to use in our sectors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm sure everyone on this call is taking notes of those things that you've mentioned, just from our basic. Okay, Mr. Ogene, do you have something to say or something to add, sir?
Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head. People will not realize that by passing their meters and by leaving their lights on, these are simple behavioral changes that we need to impact on. And the issue of investment, right? We can invest in these areas that will help. The youths can invest. But again, I want to talk about advocacy and role modeling, right? It's very, very important. Young people are very youthful. In your area, you can talk about renewable energy and how it can help win people's mind, because there's currently a mind fight now. People don't understand what renewable energy is. Let's stick to what we already know, right? That resistivity to take new things is always an issue. So if we as advocates, we go and be advocates of renewable energy or of shutting down our lights or doing the right thing or the behavioral changes we're talking about, if we advocate for them in our environment, we can make that change. Also, just to back to Ayobami's point, your estate where you live, can you generate power and take up that little space and begin to show as a role model that these things can be done? These are some little things that the young leaders of tomorrow can engage on and to see how they can impact on the energy crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that contribution. Okay, before we take the next question on chat box, I myself would like to ask a question. And I'll be directing the question to Mr. Okeogene. And in, I think one of the AI sessions we had, we talked about how that, over time, because of industrializations, people have moved to like a more sustainable source of what do I call it now, of energy. How that, people were using horses. There was a time people were using horses, and because of the need for more power, we switched to more fossil fuel like kind of machines and other gadgets that helped us make life easier in that sense. And the whole industry that was powered rather by horses and the rest was almost completely eradicated. So my question is, how do you think AI will play a role in helping us mitigate the energy crisis? Or will you think it will also contribute in itself? Because, with the replacement of horses and the rest, the oil industry or the fossil fuel industry went into a boom. And that has brought us to the point where we are in our current energy crisis. Is there a way that you feel AI is going to either mitigate or solve that problem as we move on into the future?
All right, thank you so much. That's an excellent question, Dennis. I want to commend you for that. You're not just asking a question, but we're looking in terms of trending, how tomorrow will look like and the impact on the energy industry. And I want to commend you for that question. So it's not a direct, straightforward question. Why I'm referring that is because AI is also a concept that is quite new. So the possibilities of what AI can do is not really known. One cannot say that 100%. They are just conspiracy theories. People say this is going to happen, this is not going to happen. But from my own point of view, artificial intelligence has helped in terms of decision making, and that's one thing we can think about, right? So in terms of assisting in decision making, let's say in an office and all that, I want to make a decision, right? AI has helped to provide more options, analyze the options, and read the path and the information and generate solution or generate insights from the data that we have, right? Some of the decisions we're making today would require a more diverse range of information to look at, and then we're able to get solution, right? Of which the human mind by himself might not be able to comprehend. So AI has a part to play in terms of energy options. What are the best energy options like? Today, a concept called energy parity. Energy parity talks about the cost of each source of energy, like renewable, all the renewable sources. We're looking at their cost in terms of compared to unit cost per energy. You find that most of the ones from solar and wind, they're a bit more higher than what you get from fossil fuel. So in that comparison, in the future, we believe that this is going to change, and AI comes up to the game where it helps us to look at trends. In 2025, the energy, because it understands meteorological data, it has a lot of data that it can project into the future. We'll have more of this, and because of that, this is where humans should be looking at. This kind of energy we should invest in. So AI is going to give us an idea of where to invest our limited resources. And if AI, based on the past information it has, says that we should go for renewable energy, I believe that's a direction that people have chased. But so AI cannot be ignored. AI is involved in decision making today and in the future, and I believe it's going to help us. In terms of migration from where we have fossil fuel into other renewable sources, I believe it's going to happen. But in terms of which one will take the dominance, I cannot say. Also, you mentioned horsepower at the years ago, and then when fossil fuel has come to take. Trends are changing, and technology is changing. Human preferences are changing. So somebody talks about smart grid when we're talking about this. I know I touched on that, but I didn't go very deeply into that. So there will be time where multiple power energy providers can come to a house. Unlike what we have now, is only one company that's able to come. I use the UK as an example. If British Power is supplying you power now, and you don't like them and you want Eon, you can go to Eon and say, British Power, I want to cancel my contract from you. Don't supply me. Let Eon supply me. So, and Eon is now telling you that the source of my energy is more renewable, right? So people are able to make that decision that, I want to go for more renewable energy. I want to go for this. And AI plays a huge role in selection of all those parameters in electric grid, in selecting which somebody talked about two-way communication. So AI is involved in that process. So whatever AI is doing is giving us more options in our energy selection, in our energy behavior, in our energy selection. And I believe that's an asset. If you look at some of the houses they have in VI now, you have what they call energy communication. When you get to your house, there are different devices you can press. There's serial. You can say lights on, lights off. All those things are artificial intelligence, giving us more options in our energy use. As I'm sitting down here now, let's assume my living room, power just came in now, and I was using my air conditioner there. I'll just click serial. Can you put off the air conditioner in the living room? And by doing that, I've shut off my heavy power sources, right? It has reduced. So AI in the future, AI become very, very important in everything that we do. Then lastly, I want to cap it with this. There's the issue of free radical and free energy that is coming to place very soon. A lot of people will get to hear about that very soon. Somewhere in DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, they've found some materials that if you're holding the materials like this and you put bulb on the material, lights come on, right? So those kind of metals, they have what they call free radicals and they have free energy in them. That's where the future is going to. No more fossil fuel, no more renewable, but when we talk about free radicals in terms of energy, all this space of playing, AI will play a role in terms of how much energy can come in, then which is the best that we can use. So in terms of decision making, AI is going to play a very, very important part, and ensuring that we communicate with our electrical gadgets. I can just tell Siri, put the light off. So that's artificial intelligence at play. So there's a lot AI can do, and I believe we need to pay attention to AI even in the energy industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Yes, I'm sorry, Dennis, if I could chip in something on the back of what Okeogene said. Basically, like you said, AI is still a developmental stage, basically, in the oil and energy industry. I was having a discussion with a friend in Aberdeen some few weeks ago, and I think I most likely will have a discussion with Okeogene offline because of the future investment in AI in Nigeria, in energy space, and we're talking about things like artificial pigging, and like something that will run through the pipelines to know where the pipelines maybe got damaged or siphoning or running through something through transmission lines to know what's happening in a particular way, where there's an issue in transmission line and everything. So yeah, most of these things are still in teething stages, but most likely AI will come and make system better. Is Nigeria keen into it right now? No, you understand. But I believe that these are things that we also should expect, and if possible, put your mind towards it, and when these things happen, so that you can be a first partaker of it. Now, AI law is something that is still new in Nigeria. We're basically just even cyber law is basically just trying to improve the laws in concerning cyber crime. Not talking about AI. So we have Nigerian Data Protection Act still coming into place. And all these things. So yes, there's a future. There's a teaching process. Research is being done, development has been done around the world. Unfortunately, this has been done in Nigeria, but of course, when they make it, they'll say it to us at a huge rate. So we should be expecting that yes, AI has a place to play in the energy industry in the nearest future. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you for that contribution. Thank you, Mr. Okeogene. We hope and we pray that, as the development comes and AI begins to take over the systems, those systems, our regulations that are tied to Nigeria will make it easier for the average Nigerian or the average user be able to access those systems more conveniently. We'll be going to some of the other questions on the chat box. I think the first question here on the questions that the mentee is asked after they made their presentation, I think our mentors have said a little about that. So we'll just be going straight to the second one. It says, are there recent policies/laws to tackle Nigerian energy crisis? Are there recent policies to tackle Nigeria's energy crisis? Mr. Ayobami, I think this is a sector you are heavily involved in. So I'd like to ask you, are there recent policies that is set up by the government to tackle energy crisis?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you for a minute. Is the question for me?
Yes, sir. The question.
Okay, you're talking about the policies being put in place to tackle energy crisis?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, we have the PIA 2021, we have the Electric Act that was 2023, we have the Nigerian Energy Transition Plan, we have the Climate Change Act, But like I said, these laws are good on paper, basically. They're very good on paper, but it's the practicality of it that we're having issues with, So are we seeing a move in that direction? It's pretty slow. You know, so yes, these regulations are in place. How good they are or how not good they are, we won't even, we might have a fair idea, but we might really not know if we don't, work with the law, basically. Yeah, so the policies are in place, yes. Like I said, I told you my reservations on the PIA, especially when it comes to environmental sustainability, but I understand also because the plan is just to make money with fossil fuel, not renewable energy. You know, so a lot can be better, yes, but the ones we have now, are we using them? That's the question. Which, honestly, I think it's pretty slow in the usage. That's it.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for answering that question. Okay, Mr. Okeogene, do you have a contribution on that, sir?
Yes, just to add to the question. Yes. Yeah, so just to add to that, while the regulations, the policies, and the laws are in place, but I think Nigerian energy crisis is more an infrastructure problem, right? Before we get to the point where we want laws to be enacted, can we deal with the infrastructure issue? Can we deal with the financing issue? Can we deal with building more and more recent infrastructure? This infrastructure we're talking about, in the last 20 to 30 years, newer infrastructure have not been built in terms of the energy industry. So how do we want to improve our energy sector when there's no investment? This is the issue. And now the Gencos and the Discos have complained of energy costs if they want to go and take loans to develop some of this infrastructure. The banks in Nigeria are giving double digits. This is not encouraging. So even before we get to policy issues and all that, let's get the structures working, right? Then policies will now be there to guide and to regulate, to fine-tune, and to ensure that there's no abuse on the infrastructure we have in place. So I want our students and our mentees to think in that direction. Before we get to the laws, let's look into infrastructure. And this is where the youth can also play. One of the questions you asked before is that where can young people play? This is where we can also play. One of the spaces you can play where we can have the things, we can have the energy system, we can have it working, and then we'll have foreseeable laws. But again, what my colleague Abayomi has said is very, very correct. Our laws and our policies, they are bulldogs that cannot bite. They are dogs that cannot bite. They're just there for having sake, for people to interpret them. And this doesn't give credits to our lawyers, our legal system. There's no voice. If we had biting system that could bite, a lawyer can come up here and say, this is how we need to be. We'll have the structures in place and we'll stick to them. So these are some of the institutional challenges that we have in Nigeria, and the younger generation must pay attention to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Abayomi. Thank you, Mr. Okeogene. Moving on, the floor is still open for our mentees to ask questions, right? Let this be an interactive section. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you feel about this particular subject matter. So please, you can still ask questions. This session is majorly to address not just the topic, but your own thoughts on the topic itself. So please, if you have a question, you can send it still in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and we'll be taking your question. But while we wait for you to do that, we'll be taking the third question. The third question is, what progress is Nigeria making on improving renewable energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions? What progress is Nigeria making on improving renewable energy and reducing greenhouse gas emission? Mr. Okeogene, please, can you help us with that question, sir?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. In terms of progress, I believe our progress is very slow. One of the areas there are very quick wins we would have gotten into is electrification, right? Electrification talks about a lot of areas: transportation, energy, power at home, and all that. These are areas where there are quick wins, where we'll go away from fossil fuel, but this has not really happened at the pace that it's supposed to. The support from governments and in terms of behavioral change has really not happened. So I'll just cite an example. There has recently been a gas monetization policy where they said government or NNPC has said, we will no more be flaring these gases that we have. These gases belong to us, since the operators are not using this gas. We are going to get vendors to come and take this gas from you, convert it to something that we can use. And that reduces the issue of gas flaring and injection of carbon dioxide into the environment. So this has received a lot of conversation in the long term, but not much has been done. For the past 2 or 3 years, we've been having this conversation. It was just last month or last 2 months that the 54 vendors that were selected have just been agreed. And from that time till now, nothing much has been done. So there is a lot of, the progress is very slow. Progress is very, very slow. While it is a very laudable project to see that gas flaring would have been reduced by more than 50%, right? But progression in terms of chasing, in terms of the roadmaps are very, very poor. And this is something we really need to improve upon. We have not given this, just like many other policies, we've not given it the front burner, we've not pushed it as much as we need to do. And we ought to have leaders that understand how this thing can impact on the environment. Because by the time you are converting all the gases that should have been flared before and wasted into monetizing it into value, and that is also improving of our economy. But while reducing the infrastructure and the policies for reducing, government is working on that. In terms of renewable, I think it's very slow. I'm monitoring several other African countries. I have a group chat where I have colleagues also in other African countries. They're doing far better in terms of renewable energy. Kenya is far ahead. Most of the motorbikes that they have, most of the Okada that they have, the tricycle they have, they're all electrified. You charge it from your house and then you go out. Availability of power in Kenya is far more than what we have. I think they are about almost 30 megawatts already of energy. So we're not doing as much as we can. Even the countries that we even give light, the likes of Niger and several other African countries, their adaptability to our power is even far better. So there's room for improvement here. And not just government, I would say in this point, there's a lot of space for investment. People need to come into this space and ensure that we're tracking. And also one very important part, who is tracking? Do we have regulation or we have a regulator that tracks greenhouse emission, that tracks compliance? I know Abayomi touched on this already. It's very, very laughable. It's such a pity that the PIA of all focused too much on oil and gas. Nothing was done on renewable, and it's so sad. So one of the questions I ask is that the regulators, DPRO, NUPRC, or the authority, they've lost that very, very strong sense of regulation, because they should have been the ones to regulate the power industry, to regulate the renewable energy industry. But we are focused on oil and gas so much that we've lost the potential. And why I say this with all sense of responsibilities, because most of the skills required in oil and gas can be transferred to renewable energy as an easy quick win. In fact, it's because I observed that the energy industry, the oil and gas industry, is not smart enough to take advantage of renewable. That's why I'm jumping into renewable. So I'll be one of the first thought leaders and take that space by storm, because the skills are transferable. The things they do in renewable energy and how the systems work is very similar to what we're doing in oil and gas. But unfortunately, our regulators have not identified this. So, and what this means is that loafers and people that don't understand the renewable energy will go to lead this industry, and those that have been in this industry for such a long time, they are not able to transfer their energy into the renewable space. It's so unfortunate. I just want to summarize the progress in terms of renewable energy is very slow, unfortunately. But that's where the younger generation comes in. Can we fast track this? Yes. Are there laws? Are there people working on this? Yes. But it's not in the mainstream space for people to know. So that's where advocacy also comes, where we need to change our behaviors. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for taking up that question. And we'll be taking, okay, there's another question on the chat, but before we ask that question, the question here is, what are the foreseeable impacts of energy crisis for the future? What are the foreseeable impacts of energy crisis for the future? Mr. Ayobami, please, since you're still with us, please, can you help us with that question, sir?
Well, the impacts, man, that's a good question. Like Ogan just said now, I personally been involved in those gas, I think it's called commercialization licenses. A client of mine got 2 licenses recently. So, and I think they give them a 60-day window to do something about it. So it's good progress that they're just giving a license and also giving timeline towards when they should do something about it. Yes. Now, the impact for the future, I don't know. I like to be optimistic about things, but the fact remains is this. We are very reliant on fossil fuel. highly reliant on fossil fuel. And honestly, until we diversify our economy of energy, we'll always be having those issues of reliance on fossil fuel. That's the future. Now, the 2060 deadline or 2050 deadline of net zero for 2030 of quarter of 20%, to me, 2030 is almost unrealistic, in my opinion. And it's not only Nigeria. Now, we have seen Germany reopen their coal mines, for example, because the gas from Russia was cut off because of the Russia and the Ukraine war. So, I mean, this is what we have. This is what we have right now. And the fact is that the future is bleak. Miracles do happen, yes. Maybe government policies will make it better, but right now it's quite bleak. Well, I choose to be, to have hope that it will get better. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for that answer. Okay, the last question here. I hope it's not going to be the last question for today. Please, the floor is still open. You can still send in your questions. But the last question here. Yes, sir,
sorry, let me just say this very briefly. I think in terms of that question, I think the most negative impact we will want that we'll see is the issue of healthcare. The energy transition and energy crisis that's happening so slowly is impacting on the health of people, right? You have greenhouse emissions, you have CO2 being emitted, you have sulfur being emitted, you have dangerous gases being emitted. I'll use River State as an example. I live in River State for a very long time. At some point, there was something called black soot. I don't know those of us that is in Port Harcourt, you know about the black soot saga. When you wake up in the morning, you will see black soot all over your car, black soot all over your house, and all that. This is one of the things that Wike really took time. Governor Wike took his time to deal with. So one of the biggest problems we can have is when the lack of transition or the energy crisis gets to the point where it begins to affect the health of people. And that is something we need to be very, very mindful of because of the emission. So there's need now for us to embrace that change, especially because many African countries have not transited, so that we can be forerunners and we can teach them and stay relevant, because we're also relevant in the oil and gas era. But this is something we need to look inside. If it begins to affect our health, people begin to fall sick, and then we've lost so much. And so now is the time for us to begin that transition journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for helping or contributing to that question. The last question here is, okay, it's from Amir. It says, I wanted to ask if that's from someone from an engineering background, mechanical, where can I learn more about energy efficiency, renewable energy, and develop expertise in these domains? The question is directed to Mr. Okeogene. Where can I learn more about energy efficiency, renewable energy, and develop expertise in these domains? Yes, sir, Mr. Okeogene, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, so that question is from Shariz, right? So I'm a mechanical engineer, so I didn't just fall into the energy space. It took time, it took a lot of energy, it took a lot of interest in developing that. So if you're interested in internship, you're interested in getting involved in some of all these things, we can point you in those directions, we can guide you through on how you can grow in this energy industry. So if you're interested, reach out to me. I know there are a few internships, a few volunteering roles of people that want to learn these areas. You can take up one of those roles. Our partnership with EnergyJIIPCC also covers that. We try to pick up young people that are interested in some of these areas, and we make provision in some organizations for you to learn a bit more, grow, and give you the opportunity for research and development. That's where the knowledge comes from. Some of the things I'm talking about, I've never experienced, I've never done it, but research and development has driven me in those areas. And same as Abayomi, he talks about him running his PhD as well, doing a lot of research. And one of the things he advocates here is research and development if we want things to grow. So that's the only way you can grow yourself. So if you really want to grow in the field, you have to practice. You have to go out there. You have to talk to thought leaders. I do that a lot. If I know certain areas, like the gas area is one area I'm interested in, I always engage leaders in that gas industry to learn a thing or the other. So you have to do a lot in engaging some of these people. Talk to us that are mentors in these areas, and we'll guide you a bit more. But yes, the floor and the environment is quite open for anybody. If you're a lawyer, mechanical engineer, wherever you find yourself, you can learn anything and you can grow at it. I think being a mechanical engineer myself gives you that privilege to know that if I can do it, you can also do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Amir, you can reach out to me, and I would send Mr. Okeogene's email to you so that you can send a direct mail to him, and he can help you direct. He can direct you, as he has said. I think with that, if there are no questions, any more questions, we've come to the end of today's section. Thank you, sirs, for sparing out of your time to come be here and also help us deal with this topic, energy crisis, impact, and possible solutions. It has been a wonderful time here. I personally have learned a lot from both our mentors, Mr. Ayobami and Mr. Okeogene. I am sure all the mentees as well have learned a lot. Please, I just want to see our reactions on the chat box saying thank you, sirs, for helping us address this issue and teaching us on the way forward as regards this topic. So thank you once again to our mentors for always being here, answering to our call, and helping us do due diligence to the topics on ground. So with that, we've come to the end of today's class. We hope to see you guys in the next class. Please make sure you are available. If there's for any reason you will not be in class, please reach out to any member of the GIIPC team and we'll take note of that. For the group presenters, please, group 2 members, please inform your group presenters, your members rather, so that they can take into cognizance some of these issues that you have, and then you can find a way to go around it. So thank you once again, and please do all have a lovely day.